Since I made the video back in the spring about planting your medicinal garden, I've had a lot of requests for seed starting videos. My spring this year was pretty wild. I had my first ever annual medicinal plant sale. And I really wanted to record a lot of that process, but honestly, it was so many new learning curves for me that I didn't. But because I've had so many requests for seed starting, and I'm starting seeds now, it is July in South Carolina, and I'm starting seeds for my fall garden, as well as, so I'm planning to do some vegetable starts, and I am starting some medicinals that are great to start, that like the cooler weather, like calendula, for example. I'm still getting some calendula blooms for my spring, but they do not love the heat. So I'm starting those again and a few more. I thought I would bring you along for starting these seeds. I'm probably gonna do a voiceover for this whole thing because as you can tell, it's windy. We seem to have more traffic here on our road today than usual and some construction up the road. Seed starting is not hard. If you do want to start your seeds for a fall vegetable garden, it is time now. I know it sounds crazy, but you know what? Get outside, find yourself a shady tree, use your fans and misters if you need, and just enjoy some outdoors. Hi. Hi, babies. Hi, babies. The first consideration when starting seeds is what type of soil you're going to use. You can buy small bags of starting mix at your local garden centers in the spring, but it can be harder to find in the fall. Those little bags also go quickly, so unless you're only starting a very small number of seeds, it may be worth investing a little more into your soil from the beginning. For my large spring plant sale, I made my own seed starting mix using sphagnum, peat moss, perlite, and vermiculite. I'll be doing that again for my larger seed starting projects. For my fall plants, I decided to purchase a compressed bag of Pro Mix from my local Ace Hardware. This bag may not look like much when you first see it, but don't let the size fool you. Compressed soil is much heavier than it appears and expands quite a bit when it's opened and hydrated. Choosing a good seed starting mix gives your seeds the best environment to germinate and helps set your little plants up for success from the very beginning. The next thing to consider is what type of containers you want to use for starting your seeds. I use small 6-pack trays that I purchased from Amazon or Greenhouse Mega Store for some of my smaller plants like herbs and lettuce. These work really well. But keep in mind that some plants may need to be potted up if they're going to stay in the trays for a longer period of time, especially if you're growing them for sale or they outgrow their space before you're ready to transplant them. For today's planting, I'm starting some of my fall crops, including collards, broccoli, and cauliflower. For these plants, I purchased larger 6-pack trays because I want them to have plenty of room to grow and develop strong roots before they're transplanted. I'll link all of the trays and supplies I use in the description. I also use 3 and 4 inch round pots quite often for potting up plants as they grow and need more space. I like to loosely fill each cell all the way to the top with my seed starting mix. There's no need to pack it down tightly. You want the soil to stay nice and light so those tiny roots can grow easily. Once the trays are filled, it's time to plant our seeds. Your seed packet should tell you how deep to plant your seeds, how far apart they should be planted, and about how long you can expect germination to take. As a general rule, I plant seeds about 2 to 3 times as deep as they are wide, but I always follow the directions on the seed packet if they recommend something different. I'm planting a couple of seeds in each cell because germination isn't always 100%. And this gives me a better chance of ending up with a healthy seedling in every compartment. After sowing the seeds, I lightly cover them with soil, but this is another place where it's important to read your seed packet. Some seeds actually need light to germinate, so they shouldn't be covered at all or should only be lightly pressed into the surface. If more than one seedling comes up, you have a couple of options. You can thin them by snipping the smaller one, or if you're careful, you can gently separate them and transplant the extras. Personally, I usually try to separate mine because I just can't bring myself to sacrifice those seed babies. As I finish each variety, I label the tray right away. I use tags that I found on Amazon and garden markers that dry immediately and are very water and sun resistant. Now let's discuss watering. You will want to water gently so you don't wash the seeds out of place. The goal is to thoroughly moisten the soil without leaving it waterlogged. From this point on, you'll want to keep the soil consistently moist while the seeds are germinating. If the soil dries out completely, the seeds may stop germinating. Once your seedlings begin to emerge, continue watering as needed, allowing the surface of the soil to begin drying slightly between waterings. As they grow, they'll become a little more forgiving than they were during germination. One thing to keep in mind if you're starting cool season crops in the middle of summer is that the heat can make germination more difficult. If your daytime temperatures are very hot, you may have better success bringing your trays indoors for a couple of weeks under some simple grow lights. Mine aren't anything fancy. They're actually inexpensive garage lights from Walmart, and they've worked really well for me. Once the seedlings have emerged and are growing well, you can gradually move them back outside. Just remember that these are cool season crops, so if temperatures are still extremely hot, you'll want to protect them from excessive heat until the weather begins to cool. I hope this gives you the confidence to start growing your own seedlings. There's something so rewarding about watching those first little sprouts emerge, and before you know it, you'll have healthy plants ready for your garden. So I'm starting some seeds today. Goodness, it's kind of loud and windy here. I've had some requests for some seed starting videos. What is up with all the traffic? Hey. I've tried to do this intro for the video, and a car, and now you.